And sorry, a little bit late tonight. There always seems to be something which is going wrong with life. In this case, it's my Microsoft Word, which has decided to do a shutdown, uh, which is not very pleasing, and of course, is taking 19 hours to reopen itself. Nonetheless, oh, there it is. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for joining me. My name is Stephen Kirker, and this is Forever Sports Daily, coming to you for the third time this week, and the third time since we inaugurated the program. And so far, hopefully, so good. I'm kind of getting back into the swing of sport and quite enjoying that side of matters. Coming up, we're going to hear from Laura Wolvaardt, who was player of the match in yesterday's ICC World Women's T20 final group game down in Newlands, and it's to Newlands that the Proteas will return for their semi-final against England on Friday. Also, the Knights' position in the CSA 4-day Premier Division is seriously under threat after today's defeat. It's a big night in Europe, and also a big day for Welsh rugby, with the weekend's Six Nations match against England under threat, potentially due to a strike. That's all coming up in the program this evening. But let's talk about the cricket and yesterday's victory by the Proteas. In the end, it was pretty convincing, I guess, for the Proteas, but they did stutter quite a bit. And the two leading sides in women's T20 cricket do appear destined to meet in the Sunday's final. That's, of course, unless India topples Australia tomorrow and the momentum Proteas beat the juggernaut that's England in Friday's second semi-final. Australia and England are both 4 from 4, but England's batting has been immense. They chased 136 with 5.5 overs to spare against the West Indies, 107 in a ball fewer against Ireland. Then they scored 151 for 7 in their narrowest victory against India. And then they powered to a record 213 for 5 against Pakistan. Now, on paper, the India-Australia clash looks potentially the most difficult to call of the two semi-finals. Now, while Australia are the top-ranked side and India third, they have been in better touch than the momentum Proteas. That's India. They've only reached a highest score of 132 so far in the tournament, and they also look seriously edgy in yesterday's victory over Bangladesh, despite winning by 10 wickets. Oh, and of course, they've never beaten England in this format before. But Laura Wolvaardt, who scored a half-century unbeaten in yesterday's game, believes she's beginning to find some form, and she thinks if she and her teammates kind of throw caution to the wind, they may just spring a surprise in front of their home fans.
I think our bowlers have been brilliant. I don't think we've had to chase more than 130 once, but I think our batting unit hasn't fired quite as yet. I think our starts have been decent, but they could be better, and overall we've lost a lot of wickets and patches. So it was nice to get a win today, and for Taz and I to get some runs and some confidence, hopefully. But I think overall we're still looking to get better with the bat.
And apologies for that. I managed to press the wrong button. That was Laura Wolvaardt speaking about that. Teething problems. Hopefully by the end of the week, I might be able to get one of these Forever Sports dailies through without making a stuff up. Anyway, Laura Wolvaardt praised the bowlers yesterday for the role that they played, and she says it's thanks to them that the Proteas have been able to get into the semi-finals.
I think our bowlers have been brilliant. I don't think we've had to chase more than 130 once, but I think our batting unit is still hasn't fired quite as yet. Yeah, I think our starts have been decent, but they could be better, and overall we've lost a lot of wickets and patches. So yeah, it was nice to get a win today and for Taz and I to get some runs and some confidence hopefully, but I think overall we're still looking to get better with the bat.
In other cricket today, we've got well, there were two CSA 4-day matches which were on the go, and as well as the touring match between the South African Invitation 11 and the West Indies, the touring West Indies, and at the end of the day, as far as the touring West Indies side has gone against the Invitational 11, eventually the South African Invitation 11 was bowled out for 317 in reply to the West Indies 283 for 9. And as you can see there, the South African Invitation 11 at the close of play, they lead by 34 runs. DEWALD's BREVIS top scored for the South Africans with a well played 50, and we've actually got some of the highlights of that. Oh, I didn't even put up, sorry, there I am telling you that you can see the scorecard, and of course you can't, but we did put together a video package of DEWALD BREVIS's innings. Let's have a look at that. I do beg your pardon, I was actually going to talk a bit more about that during the video, but I haven't worked out how to do that yet, so we'll try that another way perhaps. Yeah, looking at that scorecard, impressive stuff actually from the South African Invitation 11, and so the 3 wickets apiece for Roston Chase and Akeem Jordan, and 2 sticks there for Shannon Gabriel. And a great score for Wian Lubbe, the skipper, opening up the batting there with 71 at the top of the order, and a couple of decent partnerships there. It's going to be interesting to see how the pitch is playing tomorrow, and how incisive the South African bowling lineup can be against the tourists. In other cricketing news, now this is really a sad story. Because, well, that's if you're a Knights fan. But let's look at the match between the Warriors and the Lions in the CSA 4-day series. Looks, I guess, well, there you go. It did end in a draw. The Warriors 438 and 255 for 7, and the Lions replying with 433. Actually, that's a lie, because that's not the updated score. I'll try and bring you the latest, the actually updated score of that a little bit later. But what I will do is let's talk about the Knights. Dolphins winning by 279 runs. That's against the Knights, and that's at the Mangaung Oval in Bloemfontein. The visitors 253 all out, and only in reply the Knights making 165. Then Dolphins 336 for 6 declared on the back of Cyril Erwie's 132. Yeah, dropped by the selectors, and then goes on to make 100. And pretty abysmal all round from the Knights there, with the exception of Reynard van Tonder, who made 63, slumping to 145 all out. Now, let's look at the standings of this in the tournament. And you can see the Knights down the bottom there, right at the bottom, with only 24 points. And that, I think, was before this round of matches. So after another loss today, okay, no, that is up to date. So 24 points, and the leaders Western Province at 71. No play possible in their match because of a wet outfield. The Knights in serious danger of losing their status as a first division side. In other cricket, well, he may be 40 years old, but James Anderson continues to be very impressive. He has managed to go back to the top of the ICC bowler rankings in Test cricket at the ripe old age of 40. Yeah, can you believe it? And I think his first time he's been there since 2018, and it's a 6th time at #1. He's just replaced the Australian Test captain Pat Cummins at the top of the rankings. Pat Cummins having a bit of a not a great tour of India, where the Australians are 2-0 down in that 4-match series. By the same token, at the same time, better to say, James Anderson picked up 7 wickets in the victory against New Zealand, in New Zealand, and he has moved back to the top of the rankings as far as that's concerned. He's the oldest guy to do that since 1936, when another Australian captain, Clary Grimmett, was top of the bowling rankings. Now let's turn our attention to football, and what we'll talk about is the UEFA Champions League. Miserable night last night for Liverpool, being beaten 5-2 at home by Real Madrid, despite having taken a 2-goal lead. Yeah, Jurgen Klopp's just about written off Liverpool coming back in at that one. In the other game, there was a pretty decent victory for Napoli, who won against Eintracht Frankfurt away from home. Now, Leipzig host reigning EPL champions Manchester City in one of the ties. Now, they can call on last year's 2-1 win against the same opponents in the group stages as inspiration. And having been unbeaten in 18 straight competitive matches, Leipzig were back to winning ways. That's at the weekend when they won in the league. I'm just trying to find my picture of that. Oh, that's the one I need. So they won 3-1 at Wolfsburg. That was after going down 1-0 to Union Berlin the week before. City's league title defence has been resurrected recently after Arsenal's storming start to the season, but Pep Guardiola's side missed out on moving top by being held 1-1 by Nottingham Forest at the weekend. In that game, attacking midfielder Bernardo Silva scored the opening goal, but he may have been at fault when Forest equalised. Now, it's a tactic that Guardiola's been using because he reckons that Bernardo Silva playing behind Van Gaalen brings out the best, behind Highland, brings out the best of the striker, who, by the way, has scored more goals at tonight's against Leipzig, or his equal. He scored as many goals as any other striker against Leipzig, so perhaps he'll find the back of the net tonight. Critics and fans unconvinced. We'll have to see whether the deployment works tonight. Now, as far as the Inter Milan FC Porto tie goes, Inter are 15 points behind Serie A leaders Napoli, but they have lost just one of their last 11 competitive games and are unbeaten in 5 of those in all competitions. Porto, though, well, they're also in excellent form, it has to be said. They've won their last 10 games and are unbeaten in 22 matches since October. That was when they lost 1-0 to league leaders Benfica. However, the gap between the two sides, who are both second in their respective leagues, could be exposed at the San Siro, although Porto's away form has been good in the Champions League so far. And on the local rugby scene, Rudolf Stroli says he hasn't seen the report, which and denies being behind the report that that has been it was reported by IOL that the head coach Ivan van Rooyen has a rating of only 4 out of 10. According to a survey of coaches and managers at the union. Stroley's told Rugby 365 that he had nothing to do with the survey and hasn't even seen it. He says the survey was one of the regular ones run by My Players organisation, but he says he'll handle any unhappiness that it found, I guess, once he reads the report. Now, Van Rooyen is understandably under pressure with the way the Lions are performing in the URC. Now, Ricardo Loubser, the backline attack and skills coach, he also got 4. The conditioning coach, Stephen van Deventer, only scored 1. Maybe that's where the Lions' problems are. There's better ratings for line-out coach Albert van den Berg, who got 7, and defense coach Jacques Fourie, who got 8. Now, it's being called by Welsh Online the biggest day in Welsh rugby history. We'll have to see if that's the case. But the reason for that is... I've lost it. Okay. The reason for that is what they're reporting is that there were earlier about 70 players who'd pitched up for meetings with the Welsh rugby officials. And at stake in that meeting is a problem that the players have been facing. They're unhappy with the freezing of contracts and the union's financial crisis. They threaten to strike if their key demand. Now, that key demand is for 20% of their salaries to be paid in bonuses if that's not met. And yes, so that Six Nations clash in jeopardy. The board is considering offering a choice of new contracts, either fixed, variable, where they'll get £70,000 a year plus possible bonuses of up to £20,000, or a fixed price contract which they'll get £80,000 for. So far, no agreement, but I guess rugby bosses are hoping something will come out of today's meeting. Another matter being discussed is lowering the 60 cap rule before a player is allowed to play outside of Wales, and reducing that to 25 caps. Let's wrap things up with some cycling. And Sadal Quickstep's Remco Evenepoel took the lead in the UAE Tour. That's after today's third stage of the United Arab Emirates Tour. That's he finished in second place, 14 seconds behind Movistar's Colombian stage winner Aina Rabia. The bonuses he picked up for finishing second meant he took the lead from Australian Lucas Plapp, who finished the second behind him. Now, the INDIES Grenadiers rider is now 7 seconds back, with Bahrain Victorious' Pella Bilbao Lopez at another 4 seconds adrift. Another minute down is EF Education Easy Post new signing, who is the South African Stephen DEWALD. Yeah, he's the South African reigning national time trial champion. A whole minute down, so probably little chance of him making the podium, but I suppose a pretty solid performance nonetheless in that tournament. Once again, I'm going to have to say this again, apologies for the technical gremlins that I have allowed to enter the scene. Oh, there it is. There it is. I've worked out again. You see, I'm a bit blind, but anyway, too late for that. Thank you if you've made it this far through Forever Sports Daily. My name is Stephen Kirker, and working on improvements tomorrow. Back at the same time around, well, hopefully on time at 6 o'clock without any more difficulties.